Well, here we are, Friday, December 18th, 2020, with this year almost over, but still talking about the amazing topic of investing across borders. And today, I'm lucky enough to have a fellow Cohen on the show with me, Edwin Cohen, from the West Coast of the US, who just asked me if I was Canadian, and of course I answered yes, very proudly I am. Edwin and I met probably about a year ago on LinkedIn, and we started chatting, and he invited me to speak at an event that he was planning to host all over the country in different locations. And of course, COVID got in the way. So Edwin and I have stayed in touch. I've seen him interview many of my colleagues. I will be on his podcast very soon, and I wanted to invite him to join mine because we have a very similar mindset about going global and taking businesses global. Edwin, why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners, and let's see what we can chat about.
I think we must be related. It must be a pleasure. No, it is a pleasure for me to be on your show, and I welcome you to my show someday, perhaps in the new year. In fact, on January 13, I'm producing a program, live broadcast, TV, Zoom it, worldwide at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. California time.
11 a.m. Eastern to translate for you East Coast.
Yeah, and 8 p.m. in Dubai.
Wow.
So, it's called Women in Power Roles.
Wow.
And so you should join that. I've got some attorneys, but real estate, relocation type people. And I'm building the program now, and so please mark that down.
I will mark it down. I would love to participate, and I'm
Cool.
hosting an event that day at noon, so we'll have to play around that event. But yes, absolutely.
Oh no, ours will be done before noon, or you can jump off anytime.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. So globalbusinessnews.net is our homepage, and from that, there's almost 1,000 pages deep, and some of it's really old. We've started the site in 2003, and since then Google Analytics, and if you can believe all that stuff, they say that 1.2 million reader page views have been on the site, and from 100 countries, but 70% are North America, Mexico, Brazil, about 20% Europe, and the rest scattered around. But about 9% Asia Pacific within that mix. Middle East, Africa is like 1%, if that, but it is growing. Our thing is dealing with cross-border mobility and investing in talent, global talent acquisition, with Fortune 500 companies or companies, and they're the ones that have the money to move staff. Okay.
Right.
Now, all of that ended basically with COVID back in March. What I'm saying is that the world has changed and the lessons learned are many. And so I never knew how to use Zoom before March 1st. Never used it.
Now you're a pro.
Well, we've done about 70 broadcasts, I call them TV broadcasts, by interviewing people and by bringing together a meeting online. Like earlier today, I had eight people, one from Bahrain, one from Dubai, and then Seattle, LA, New York, and a Brit who's living in Philadelphia. And last week we did a show in Brazil, focusing on Bound for Brazil. And we had people from Brazil and also New York. So our program brings together people to talk about the idea of managing talent mobility for big corporations. And it used to be that we talked about foreign direct investment, mainly coming into the US, companies not only sending people, but buying real estate for tax benefits or shielding money from their vouchers at home or wherever. And I think that's stopped for the most part. since COVID. Maybe
You
maybe
mean
it
the
will
real
pick up
estate
again.
investing has stopped?
Foreign direct investment into the U.S. I think that it's probably still going on, but I haven't heard of anything. No news reports, no nothing on that.
It's still
Doesn't mean
going
it's
on.
not happening.
It
Doesn't
is
mean
still
it's not
going on
happening.
because I'm
Right.
working with people that are doing exactly that. So probably not as loudly as before because of political reasons and COVID, but it's still
Right.
going on.
Right. I think it's done through arrangements to shelter and protect the asset holder. Anyway, what we focus on is all the elements connected with relocation of people, and that means compliance, tax, and legal is a big issue.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Um, People working from home or working from anywhere, they have to pay a tax somehow if they're generating income
God
in
forbid they
a
should get
different
away without
location.
taxes. Right.
So, and the countries were clamping down. I don't know whether they still are right now. They have other things to deal with that are more important right now. So, with that in mind, we get people to talk and to meet and shake hands virtually, you know, and to use the chat thing on the bottom there
Mhm.
to exchange messages and connections, LinkedIn, website, and it works. People have developed relationships who have met on our program, and they're going in their separate ways. They've come back on Global TV Talk Show, which is the name of our broadcast series, and it's a good
Global
thing.
TV talk show. How do you reach the Global TV talk show, Ed?
It's part of globalbusinessnews.net, and
Okay.
it does have its own URL, which I'm not going to try to remember right now, but I'll be glad to send it. All
Okay.
right, globalbusinessnews.net
Mhm.
is the umbrella
Okay.
and landing page, and you can find anything you need there. So we have globalradiotalkshow.com, and we have Global PR Magazine, which is now online. That's an outgrowth from a print publication that we did for several years called Global HR. And that was a glossy color magazine, about 100 pages. Um, and so we've basically stopped doing that and gone to more LinkedIn news distribution
Right.
and having articles and news and information based uh, on the activities of our clients and our connections within the world of global mobility, and placing them on our site in different pages.
Mhm.
And so that is driving the Google count, right?
Mm.
People, we send out the link to the specific article on a specific page, and that drives the eyeballs. And
Sure.
that legitimately, quote unquote, legitimately shows tracking traffic,
Sure.
or how many eyeballs are on the site, how many audience pages are viewed, how long do they stay on the site, where are they from, where they go from there. All of that Google tracks, and of course we get all that, but that drives advertising revenue
Mm.
because of the connection to the authors of the information or the PR people who plant the information. The topics themselves all have links. And so a lot of people within this industry group of global talent mobility and all things related to that, this is like a club, like an association of people connected worldwide, all in the same business space through many, many, many different companies, many of them really small and others are giant.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of communications, intercommunications. And so the traffic that flows to the site, uh, housing this information, creates an advertising place, a branding. And so the advertisers are from within this global mobility space because nobody else cares. Uh, I could sell Ford Motor Company on the idea, but they're going to say, forget about it.
Right.
But somebody who's in the business of tax or legal or property rental,
Mhm.
not necessarily purchase, and
Not
movement of
purchased for
household goods.
rental? Like, is it an investor that's then renting the property, or are they, yes.
Yeah, rental housing.
Mhm.
People who are relocated in the majority are renters, not
Oh, I see what
buyers.
you're okay, that part, okay.
But in people who are in a senior level in a corporation, they're going to be buyers. All right. And so there is opportunity for a discussion of real estate investment. But the dominance of our population are people who don't make enough money to buy
Mhm.
and don't want to. And the company is relocating them, so they're paying them
Right.
and they're picking up the rent.
Is that
So it's,
relocation still going on now?
you know what, it's way off,
Yeah.
like 90% off, but it's still going on. There are
Mhm.
companies actually moving. In fact, on our Brazil program, which was last Monday, the 14th of December, um, Unilever was one of our lead speakers, and the head of the talent mobility for Latin America is housed in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and she was one of our speakers. And she said that their business is up,
Mm.
that business across Latin America within Unilever, from a transfer of personnel around Latin America, in and out, and within, is higher this period over a year ago for them. Now, many other companies aren't moving anybody.
Right.
In fact, they've left people where they are because it's too expensive to relocate them back, or they can't get out or
Or
come
there's not
back
even
in.
a point because they're working remotely.
So they're keeping them there.
Yeah.
And so this relocation activity is beginning to pick up US wide and some international.
Mhm.
But for instance, people are relocating out of California, um, out of the Bay Area in particular,
Yeah, for
San
sure.
Francisco
Yeah,
Bay Area,
absolutely.
and
Going
and they're
into
going.
more into
Well, they're going.
suburban areas, more space.
Well, they're being transferred.
Mhm.
For instance, Apple uh, can't recruit people into
Yeah.
California from
Mhm.
anywhere,
Yeah.
um, and they can't even move them from San Diego up to San Jose because it's more expensive and people don't
Mhm.
want to move. So Apple has set up in San Diego. They've taken space, building a building, and because they can't relocate people, people don't want to move. And what is happening is that they're investing in Austin and
Yeah.
in Nashville
Mhm.
and in Atlanta, north of Atlanta.
Mhm.
And these areas are red hot.
Yeah,
And because people are moving from the expensive San Francisco Bay Area in particular to these other places,
for sure.
Austin, Dallas, Nashville, Atlanta, big time.
Kind of the
And
more mid-market cities are now becoming the hot,
well, because
places.
they're lower cost
Yeah,
and they don't have the congestion and they
right.
don't have race riots and they don't have uh,
Atlanta doesn't have race riots? Atlanta's not exactly, I would say that you're
I
like Nashville and Dallas and Austin for sure, but not Atlanta, isn't it a hotbed for that? No?
no, and the culture there is top down,
Um,
okay, heavy, uh, um, heavily frowned upon by the powers that be, and I'm not saying that it never happens, but so anyway, people are moving into lower cost areas and working for the same companies,
mhm,
right? They're just transferring,
mhm,
and that is booming, absolutely booming. And a lot of people are moving into from California into Phoenix, Vegas area. Uh, More older people there, but um, younger people, say 30s somethings with young family, middle managers, they're moving into Phoenix Metro. They're moving to Austin. They're moving to Colorado. They're moving to Utah, Salt Lake. they're moving to, as I mentioned, Nashville area, and into north of Atlanta is
So
red
is
hot.
this true only within the US, or is this true for people, are people still coming in from other countries and being located to those cities?
There's hardly any inbound relocation at the moment.
At the moment,
It
right?
was until March,
Right.
pretty consistent for years.
So how has
And
this
I'm
lack
sure
of,
it will pick up again. I'm
how
sure
has
it will
this
pick up.
lack of relocation impacted your business, or has it? Or just that you've moved on to Zoom?
It wiped out my business.
Oh.
Okay, 95%,
Mm-hmm.
like that. And not just my business, but practically everybody within the service side of corporate relocation
I
business.
100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So how could I reach more people? How could I share networking and continuing education this way? And
Absolutely.
by doing a teleconference, it's not a new idea. All you have to do is watch TV news, Meet the Press, or whatever, CNN, and you see panels of people in different places. And some announcer is managing that flow, right? And it's sponsored because of the eyeballs. And so I took that model and said, okay, let's build a TV show, a news show. And so that's what I've done. So I had a lot of contacts, anyways, over the years, and I've just asked them to come on the program and give them a script, bullet points rather than sentences, and ideas, bring people together. And if you have type A personalities like my job is easy.
I'm a type A. Nah.
Okay, double
Come
A.
on.
Triple A. Yeah.
But I'm a high D when it comes to disc personality tests, or whatever you call it, the disc personality assessment. That's it. High D.
Good for,
So I mean,
good for
there's
you.
no A
Yeah.
in there, but you're right. All of us A's are generally D's in the disc, right?
So we've been able to attract some advertising, but not the typical advertising. I have stayed away from going after what everybody else goes after. And so one of the needs that I saw and investigated and scored in was online education for kids, K through 12. And, with parents working from home and everybody fighting
Tell
over
me about it.
bandwidth, right?
I'm
And
doing that right this minute.
okay, so I'll talk fast. But
No, I'm just
the
kidding.
no,
He's on a coding class, and you're right. I was doing that for the whole of COVID because he was online doing online school. Oh
so
goodness.
it gives you a migraine, right? So
That's what I
uh,
get. Exactly.
okay, so online education. So there's a group called thebridgeschool.net. Who ever heard of them, of course? But it turns out that they're fully accredited and have been in business 20 years and growing like hotcakes. So, anyways, they saw the wisdom of what I was doing and they wanted to reach out to the corporate community.
Hmm. Oh,
Uh, they
as
already
an
have,
alternative. Yeah.
well, as a hybrid as well.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And anyway, they bought a package of advertising of significant, and they're really happy with the connections that I've been able to make for them.
Awesome.
And they've just renewed for the new year and increased. And then some of the relocation management companies that I've had on spot trial this past few months in terms of advertisers, just this past week, I've gotten 2 renewals for the new year.
Awesome.
And so I've come up with the idea of series. So like what you and I are doing now about real estate investing across borders, was with a specific angle here and there. That's a great idea for a weekly or bi-weekly half hour or hour series, and each time a different topic or topics and certain guests each
Mhm.
time. So that kind of thing interests me because with you and that kind of a theme, I don't have that right now. And I could donate, give, make way, build an hour a week for the show, which you're the co-host, and you bring guests, or I find a guest, and we do a talk show, and it becomes a public relations tool. And not only is it live that moment uh, for all three of us who are watching this right now, but um, the recording of it
Right,
and
it's
then
live
placement
forever.
on my site and then
Right,
linking up to YouTube,
correct.
it's worldwide,
Yeah,
nonstop PR for a year. And so the value of this is going forward, not today. And so a series under that idea of topic, a legal series on real estate investing across borders or whatever, that's a winner because that will build up a whole new audience for global TV talk show and will broaden the audience that you want. Okay. Now,
right.
you're not going to stop doing anything that you're already doing or want to do. Just add this, integrate it into your marketing plan,
Mhm.
and I will do too. And together, you do what you do, I do what I do, and we win at the end.
Absolutely.
All right.
That sounds like a
It's
win-win.
like, yeah, I mean, you think of Steven Spielberg, all right? How does he do this? He's got a hardcore group, but he finds Harrison Ford or Supergirl or whatever to be the star, all right, of a movie. Then they have the screenwriter and they have the artists to put the makeup and the costumes, and then they have the photographers, and then they have the music background, and they have the setting, all right, and somebody wrote the script, okay? So he brings all these people together for one purpose, put it together, make it work, put it up there, sells tickets, and then everybody disappears, goes their own way for another project. So I liken the broadcast series using Zoom type things as the same kind of a production mentality, whereby you bring people together for a very specific purpose, everybody has a role, and then wings it within the sphere, and then make new contacts, exchange ideas, and then moves on to another project, another day, another place. And it's a win-win.
So you mentioned foreign direct investment. Did you ever work in the EB5 space at all?
No, but my advertisers are lawyers,
Okay.
and they're on the show,
Hmm.
so I'm very familiar with it. And they
Yeah,
come and have spoken at my live meetings as well for years.
right. Because that was my specialty for many years, and we call it foreign direct investment. It's either direct investment or indirect investment. And
So up until the COVID, it was a lot of Chinese, right?
up until the amounts changed, there were a lot of Chinese investors. So the amounts
Yeah,
changed
like a
last
million or
November.
500,000 or a
It
million.
went up to 900 as the minimum and 1.8 in a
Right.
non-designated area. But the reality is that the industry was changing before that because the Chinese met their quota. And then when the amount changed, forget about it. It's just been downhill. And then there's a lot of fraud and it's a mess. So anyway, that's been a very huge impact on my business is those changes. But I feel that there's a lot of opportunity right now to work with global investors in specifically in real estate, but not only real estate, because even though this economy here in the US is a little shaky, it's better than most and it's open for business and there's still going to be opportunity and the market is opening up because people aren't paying their mortgages. So there's opportunity for global mobility. The way we originally connected is I was bringing my uncle's business to the US from Canada, and it's a global mobility business, corporate relocation. So obviously impacted by this whole thing. And
Yeah.
things, you just have to morph with the times. And I think that that's what we're all about. And as long as those of us that weren't able to go online or take our businesses online, I think we're probably falling apart at the seams now. But fortunately,
So
they're
I want to say, to augment what you're just referring to, is that we've just done a couple of programs, one about Greece, and the country of Greece has done an EB5 kind of a thing,
yep,
and they're marketing it out through lawyers and relocation companies. And so my interview was with the owner of a relocation company in Athens,
Uh-huh.
And part of her business is helping foreigners invest in Greece, and in return they get citizenship.
Kind of like
You know,
here.
it's the same picture. And so also in Brazil, also in Bahamas, I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Singapore, Malaysia, Australia. There's lots of
Right.
competitors.
Cayman Islands probably,
Hmm.
but Mexico is open, the whole Riviera Maya area, hot, hot, hot.
Yeah, it's funny
And
you say that because I'm with my real estate license and I'm with eXp Realty. And we just launched in Mexico a week. It will be 2 weeks on Monday, and in France this past Monday. So, and Mexico's a big deal because there's a lot of opportunity. So I think that Mexico is an up and coming um, economy, and certainly going to play a bigger role once the administration changes.
so are you involved at all with Belize and Aruba
Involved
as
in what way?
well, like, work from anywhere,
Oh, yeah,
invest?
for sure.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, because
100%.
I'm building that category
Uh-huh.
into a show.
Oh, cool.
I'm sourcing for series, and then people who will pay me a fee,
Right.
because they're going to get all the PR, and I'm the vehicle. All right.
Understood.
So
Understood.
so that's the global PR aspect of what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, they used to call it a laptop lifestyle. I guess they sort of still do. Freedom of movement, global mobility. That's why my tagline is invest, live, work, and play globally across borders. Um, it actually we came up with that tagline on this marketers cruise last February, which will not be happening this February. But a colleague of mine, just based on what I do, said, "This is your tagline." I'm like, "Oh my God, that's brilliant." And it's true. But the problem is that a lot of us forget, myself included, to play. Because it's not only about investing, living, and working, but it's also about playing. And I think through COVID, one of the things that we've all forgotten to do, and I'd already forgotten a little bit, is to play. And it's just been a rough time. And I think that we have to get that sense of community back and play. And tell me, what would you say right now is the one thing you miss the most about pre-COVID that you're dying to do? And I know you're in California, so you're on more of a lockdown than we are here in Florida. So what would be the one thing you're dying to do?
Well, first of all, I want to edit that. I happen to be in Maui.
Oh,
And, yeah,
you did tell
and
me that. I forgot.
yeah. So we've been here. So the family has a condo here, and so we've had it a long time. So um, I so Joanne and I have been here for 2 weeks now, and we have another 5 days, and then we're going to go back on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, regretfully. So, San Diego's okay, but this is better for me, frankly. So, hope to come back again and again.
Nice.
So, yeah, so the time zones are screwy because it's 2 hours um, behind California,
Hmm.
and so it's 5 hours,
Right.
right, between me and you right now.
Yeah.
It's now 11:35
Yeah.
my time. Mele Kaliki Maka, by the way. Um,
I don't even know what
so
that means. And I've been to Maui, but not for a long time.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, okay.
So you may remember you probably don't remember, but because you're not old, but you may have seen the old movie with Bing Crosby singing Mele Kaliki Maka is the song
Is
for
that like
you.
White Christmas or something?
Yeah, only it's Hawaiian.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's cool. When we get off, I'll send you a link so you can watch Mele Kaliki Maka.
Well,
Anyway,
I know who
here I
Bing
am.
Crosby is. My dad was a big fan,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we watch old TV and movies.
and I'm
But
really not that young as I'm looking at my, anyway. Edwin, tell us how we can reach you to find out more about your show and watch your show and join your show and all of that.
You're very nice. Okay, so I'm not a tech wizard here, so I can't share screen right now. I haven't figured out how to do that, but I'm looking at my phone here and see whether I can get the exact site. But you can always get all the information you need. It just takes more than one click. Global Business News, all one word. Net,
Globalbusinessnews.net.
right? .net.
.net, globalbusinessnews.net, and then you'll find everything you need to know about global
You can,
business.
well, you can connect to the radio, the magazine, the TV series, and some other stuff. So we welcome articles. So I have contracts and relations with a lot of sources of information, people who want PR. And because we get, like more than 1,000 a week of audience visits, sometimes it spikes a lot higher, sometimes it's less. Google Analytics says that since January 1 through about a week ago, December 10, there are 75,280 something page views
Wow.
on one of our pages on the site. Now the video TV section has really been a big winner, more than ever. So hey, I'm doubling down. I'm going
There you
for it.
go.
That's why the series idea will keep audience flowing,
Right.
and having that as a floor, if you will, a wellspring of audience that has its own possibilities of growth, depending upon the topic and the push per topic and the following. Amongst the other things that we're doing, the other topics, the audience is going to grow even more, without question.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, so that's how to do it. That's the lesson learned. So I try to get venture capital to go build my live meetings worldwide and to franchise or license and build a network. And this guy who I've known for a long time, who's a rich guy, he says, you're going to lose money because it's impossible for you to make any money over the short term. And I don't want to hang around and wait. And so, because there's other opportunities where it's going to come faster,
Right.
tech, other things. But you, Ed. So at first I got taken aback and I was pissed off. But then he says, you already know what you're doing, but you got to go on TV. You should look at TV and do it online, stream it. And look into Zoom, look into this and that. All right. And this was in February, before there was any talk at all about cutting back or closing down or disease. Nobody was talking about it. Perhaps they should have, but they weren't. Okay. And this was before. And this was he was a guest speaker at my LA meeting. My LA meeting was February 13. And it was in an area of LA, right near LAX, just north of LAX, in an area nicknamed Silicon Beach. Why? Because Google and Apple and whoever, they all, as I said, they opened up, they built buildings, office space in LA because they can't get people to move up north. Okay. And so they said, okay, we'll come to you. And then they did the same thing down in San Diego, which is 200 miles south. So I was right there in the heart of Silicon Beach, and my lunchtime speaker was this guy, Rob, who's a venture capitalist, and rich guy from Beverly Hills, right? So, and he says, I'm not going to lend you any money, but you don't need it. You got to bootstrap this. You got to find a way to become the Johnny Carson of your industry and bring people together on TV, and you will find advertisers come to you. And that's how you're going to do it. And it's going to be really hard. And if you screw up, you're dead, because the whole world is going to be watching you. Your
Wow.
whole world is going to be watching you. It's just too risky for me to put any money in, and no one else will either.
I
Straight talk.
yeah, I have a dog that needs my attention